So before we get started with a little bit of history of the club, I wanted to introduce to you some of our special guests tonight, are people that actually knew Marilyn Monroe are here today. And they're becoming farther and fewer between, so we want to appreciate them while we can. So I'd first like to introduce to you Diana Darren, who actually had her facial right after Marilyn at Rena in Beverly Hills, right? This is right now Diana Darren. We also have with us another Diana Herbert, whose father was F.U. Herbert, Scudda Who, Scudda Hey, director and writer. And sitting next to on her left is the fabulous, beautiful Kathleen Hughes, wife of Fanny Rubin, who produced River of No Return. And she starred in many movies, including It Came from Outer Space. So, great movie. And sitting on the other side of Diana is the fabulous Olga from Some Like It Hot. And sitting on the other side is the daughter of Mickey Rooney from Fireball, Kelly Rooney. Next to Kelly is a man whose grandfather was Louis B. Mayer, whose father was David O. Selznick, Daniel Selznick. So, have I missed anyone that knew Marilyn? Have I forgotten anyone? George. Oh, George Chakiris was here. He was in 3 films. Unfortunately, he has hearing problems, and all this noise drove his hearing aids crazy. So he had to leave, but he sends his love to all of you. And I'm sure you know who he was. He won the Academy Award for West Side Story, and he's a fabulous guy, and he will be back for our next meeting. Yes, first I'm covering the people that knew Marilyn. Okay, we also have with us tonight 2 people that were connected to Marilyn. And one of them is Audrey Franklin, who was with Ella Fitzgerald, of course, who Marilyn helped get started here in Los Angeles. Audrey. And also a lady whose father was one of our most dearest and nearest members. He was one of the fellows who really knew how to photograph Marilyn beautifully and did the last photo shoot on the beach with Marilyn. George Barris's daughter, Carolyn Barris. So, are we not lucky to have this amount of fabulous people? I'm forgetting somebody else. Oh, of course. Well, yes. I apologize. Yes, how can I forget her? Unbelievable. We also have with us a lady who is very connected to the play that was this afternoon. And as you may not be aware, the last table back here of this incredible play that happened this afternoon about Evelyn Moriarty and her niece, Claudia Moriarty, is here tonight. Claudia, raise your hand. You've seen photos of a lot of these people I just talked about that are no longer with us in our slideshow. So are we ready to see a little bit of history now? Yeah. Well, let me give you a little background. Why did I do this in the first place? Well,
the money.
The money. As you can see, we charge so much for dues, right? Zero, right? So this is not a money-making venture, obviously. But as a small child, my parents took me to a drive-in to see Some Like It Hot. And the drive-in was located in Monroe, Wisconsin. Monroe, Wisconsin. Is that weird or what? I know. I fell in love with her, and when I moved to Los Angeles in 1979 to go to school at UCLA, I was 5 years old, and
Never gets old.
Never gets old. Anyway, I moved out here to go to school at UCLA. I went to the cemetery, and in 1981, I met 3 other people that would change my life, and they were Teresa Seeger, Catherine Seeger, her mother, and Anthony Cordova. They, with me, decided that we were going to form some kind of club because nothing had been done since her death. Nothing. There was no club, there was no memorial service, nothing. So we vowed in 1982 we would go and in front of the crypt have a memorial service. By the way, we still have one other member other than me from the original group. She is here tonight, Teresa Seeger. And I never dreamed that 35 years later, I would still be here with all you fabulous people. And some of you tonight are people that were here almost from the very beginning. I'm thrilled that you're here. It touches me so that some of you came a long, long distance to be here tonight for this very special event. You'll see a lot of them in the slideshow. We have not changed at all. So you won't have problems recognizing us, okay? So let's get into the right slideshow here. Here we go. Here we have a photo taken the day that we decided to become a club. This was what the crypt looked like that year. In fact, we had our first few years not in the chapel, but literally outside the crypt for the services. Okay? So we go on to the next one. And here we see the original members. Here you see myself. You see, no different. Thank God it's blurry. And Teresa, there's Teresa. Remember that, Teresa? Yes, indeed. And there's her mother, and there's Anthony Cordova, the 4 original members of the club. I don't know where that was taken, actually. Do you remember, Teresa, where it was taken? Any clue where that was? Not really. It's kind of shiny behind us. I don't know. It's a silvery curtain. Does that make anything? I've totally forgotten. Maybe the Hotel Roosevelt. We did a big show at the Roosevelt, a show tribute to Marilyn. That may be what that was. Okay. Here we have a magazine that was the reason we really got noted around LA. It was called Hollywood Then and Now. It does not exist anymore. But it featured us in an article of different fan clubs, and so we started getting members. And some of the people we added were Jane Guy from Australia, who then formed her own club, the Australian International Fan Club. Michelle Justice, who was also then formed her own club called All About Marilyn for a while. And Marie Solitow, who wrote one of the very first books on Marilyn Monroe, a biography of her, and a really good friend of the club. Evelyn Moriarty, of course. And maybe Van Doren was one of our first people that spoke. Lee Weiner, who did the photos for after her death. And Bibi Goddard, Marilyn's stepsister. So let's go on. And here, good. Here we have one of the first actual photos of the club meeting. You will see Chris there, who's right over there. Recognize yourself, Chris? And Teresa, and me, and Teresa's mother, and Sabin is way in the background there. You see Sabin? There's Sabin right here. T.R. Fogley, who was our treasurer, and John LeBold, remember? And right in the middle is actress Joan Evans, who was the first editor of this magazine and really supported us. I called her today. She sends her love to everybody. So Joan Evans sends her love. As we kept going, we got bigger and bigger. As you can see, now we have more members. Bibi Goddard is on the left on the floor there. Marilyn's stepsister. Marie Solitow is on the right, sitting down. We were amazing. We had such fun. We were so thrilled to get together and share our love of Marilyn because there was no other way to do it back then. This was it. No internet. Nothing. I personally called everybody every month. I did. I really did. One of our dearest members was Susan Strasberg, the daughter of Lee Strasberg. Yes. Here we see a book signing she had, and we were there for her. She would come every year and read her father's eulogy. It was so powerful, I can't tell you. Unfortunately, she got cancer and passed away, and we lost a very dear friend. Here we have our favorite lady in the club, Evelyn Moriarty. Yay. Here she is with Marilyn in obviously Misfits, and here she is with the cherry dress, her version of it. This is the one she wore as the stand-in. Evelyn was one of the most fun, lovely characters you could have ever asked for, and you had to love her. There was something about her, you couldn't not love her. And you can see why Marilyn adored her too, because she was such a great lady. So we were grateful to have Evelyn to be a part of it. Weren't we lucky? Yes. Also, a couple of years ago, we were very fortunate to have with us Amy Green, the wife of Milton Green. And she, of course, had a very big part in Marilyn's life when Marilyn lived with them for a while in Connecticut. And then we have Jay Cantor also, who was press agent and a very good friend of Marilyn's and very supportive of her also. And of course here is the fabulous George Barrett. George was not only a great guy, he really supported our meetings. He spoke every year at the memorial service. And if there was one person who really loved Marilyn, it was George. He really loved her. And I don't know about you, but I miss him a lot, and I'm sure you miss him a lot too, Carolyn. He was just the best. And I think this is maybe the last year that he came to a meeting. And he cut the cake, and we miss him. And Marilyn, I think you can just see how much she adored him. This was at her birthday party, her last birthday party. George was there to be a part of that, as was Evelyn, too, that day. In fact, Evelyn brought the cake. So there you have it. Don Murray, I was fortunate to meet from Bus Stop. He's been a lovely man. Unfortunately, his anniversary falls on August 5th, so every year he can't make it because his wife says we're going out for our anniversary. So there you have it. And speaking of husbands and weddings, we were so lucky through B.B. Goddard to get to meet Jim Daugherty, her first husband. He was a doll. He loved her too. It's just that they weren't compatible because she wanted a career, he wanted a housewife. So that's why it didn't work out. But you can see they're happy there. I think they had some good years together. And he came and spoke and was a lovely man. And his new wife said, don't mention Marilyn anymore. Also, William Trevia, terrific guy. This man made Marilyn's image because his costumes were in almost every one of her movies, and he created that Marilyn look through the costumes. He was a lovely, lovely man. And I'm sorry you weren't all around when we had him in a meeting. He was just fascinating, and we adored him, and he was a great guy. And obviously Marilyn adored him too. So there. And then we come to B.B. Goddard, a lovely, lovely woman. She grew up with Marilyn, and they shared a lot of memories together, and B.B. was a lot of fun. Probably Steve Campbell, wherever he is, had more doings with B.B. than anybody. There were probably some good and bad times along the way with B.B. But my impression overall was she was a lady that was fun to be around and could be a real character too. And I wouldn't want it any other way. She certainly probably gave Marilyn a run for her money when they were growing up together, I would suspect. Here we have maybe then Darren, who came and spoke. It was quite a few years ago, but I hear she still looks good. Yeah. And believe it or not, she's wearing Marilyn's costume from Deliver Blondes in that movie. I don't know how she got a hold of it. Somehow she did. Okay. And then of course Sidney Gilleroff. What a lovely gentleman he was. Elegant. He came to so many of our meetings. He did her hair in so many of her movies, along with almost every major star in Hollywood. Watch your credits for MGM. It's always listing him as the hairdresser for almost every major movie from the 1940s all the way up through the 70s. Except for...
He was never allowed on the set when we did Some Like It Hot.
Right. Because, number one, he was United Artists.
He did it on the side.
Right, and he wasn't allowed to be legally on the set. But he was the best. He knew what he was doing. He really created some great hairstyles. And a lovely man. Great man. He was so nice. Okay. And another great hairdresser we had with us was Sylvia Barnard. She really was amazing. Wasn't she lovely? Her butterflies were fine. And she was the one that first turned Marilyn's hair to blonde at Frank and Joseph's on Wilshire Boulevard, just down the street, at the Ambassador Hotel. So she was, or not at the hotel, but across the street. Lovely lady, and she stayed with us many, many years. We really miss her. She's a great lady. And then, of course, we just introduced Kathleen Hughes. There she is. Yay, Kathleen! And here's with her is, of course, husband Stanley Rubin, who produced River of No Return. And then we see Kathleen right on the poster of It Came From Outer Space and Living 3D. You haven't lived till you've seen Kathleen in 3D. Well, you can see her now in 3D right now.
Right here.
Right. Okay, well, one thing the club wanted to do was create a bench for Marilyn because so many people come and they wanted to stand and contemplate Marilyn and the crypt. So we thought, why not have a bench? So the bottom bench we purchased with ourselves and All About Marilyn Club. It's a combination effort. It was there for about 3 years, and then someone came along with a sledgehammer and destroyed it. Yep. One morning we came in, and it was in pieces all over the ground. So we went together with ourselves this time. By that time, the club was gone, All About Marilyn. So just Marilyn Remembered itself, and all the fans around the world contributed, and we bought this time a marble bench, which is a much harder to break. And they put a camera in too. I mean, I don't know why anybody felt they needed to do that. That's a really horrible thing to do, but they did. So that bench does not survive, but the one on the right does now. And thanks to your monies and your efforts, people come every day and sit on that bench and contemplate Marilyn. Thank you. Another great member of the club have been the Greens, Anthony and Joshua. And you can see Joshua there in a picture with Marilyn Monroe from bus stop. He's a little older now. Joshua's on the left and Anthony's on the right. Unfortunately, Anthony passed away a few years ago. Okay.
Anthony's on the left, Joshua's on the right.
You're right. I'm so sorry. They look alike, kind of, don't they? They almost look the same. You're right. I screwed them up there. Okay. And here we have another great friend of it, Alex Darcy. Remember him from Goddard Millionaire? Yeah. Debonair, cool guy. Rick, where's Rick? Rick was a really good friend, and he sort of brought him into the fold. Alex was a lot of fun and very cool and very debonair. What did you say?
He adored Marilyn, and he was a great guy. He made it to 89 years old.
89, yeah. And we had Darlene Hammond, who shot these fabulous shots of Marilyn from How to Millionaire. She was a really lovely lady, a wonderful photographer. And then we have Joseph Jasker, who was a little controversial. He was a kind of a character too. A lot of our Maryland people were characters. But he was very loyal. He came to almost every meeting. He came up with this theory that Marilyn had 6 toes, which was a little odd because James Daughtery, who had been married to her before even Joseph met her, said he never saw 6 toes, and I would think he would know. But nevertheless, Joseph clung to that theory till the day he died, and that's just fine. He did some great photos, early photos of Marilyn, though. I will give him that. Yeah, he certainly did. And then we have Gene Allen, who was the art director on Something's Got to Give. Great guy, yeah. He also was art director on My Fair Lady. He was a major figure in Hollywood. And a very nice man, very nice man. And then we have Marie Solitaire, who did the first really biography on her, serious biography. Fabulous man. When he passed away, his daughter, whose name is Crescent Dragonwagon, yes, indeed. She's an author of cookbooks, I went and cleaned out his apartment, and she gave me a cookbook for doing that. He was just a great guy and adorable. And those who were older members of the club remember him, I'm sure. He was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And then we also have Jack Clemons, who was the first policeman on the scene when she died. And of course he had some interesting facts to share about his theory about how she died. And he thought there was a lot of suspicion going on that night. Like having the laundry done at the same time, you know, a little weird, okay. And then Eli Wallach, who was starred with her in the Misfits. Here I am with him. In San Diego, we did a commemorative stamp thing when they put the stamp out in Maryland. And Tony Curtis and Eli Wallach and I were there for that event. Okay. And then we have Donald Spoto, who no longer lives here. He lives in Denmark. But he wrote one of the more definitive biographies on Marilyn, as you probably know, along with many other famous books of other stars. Here we have Evelyn and me and Donald. On the other side of Donald is Patrick Miller, who was an amazing member of the club. He worked at 20th Century Fox, got us on the lot, did incredible things. He was the expert on Marilyn, more than anybody. And unfortunately, he passed away of a brain tumor, way too young. He was about my age, and he really should not have died. And then Alex Darcy, Michelle, and then her partner in the club was Roman. Okay? So, and here we have Michael Wolff, another fun guy. He designed her costumes for Clash by Night, and another really interesting guy. Again, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. And then George Chakiris, who was here earlier this evening. Here we see him in Jones for Blondes, but he also appeared in How to Be a Millionaire and also No This Is Like Show Business. So he was in more than one movie with her.
West Side Story.
And a fabulous dancer, went on to West Side Story, winning the Academy Award eventually. So a great guy, and he still looks fabulous. How does he do it? Last year, we did an amazing event for those who were lucky enough to get a ticket at Maryland's Orphanage, Holly Grove, thanks to the efforts basically of Jackie and Scott. And it was a huge event. We raised a lot of money.
Over $8,000.
Over $8,000. Here's the actual event, what it looked like. We filled an entire space at the orphanage, and there's a display we had, and the orphans now have $8,000 more to play with. We're doing some good here, yeah. And that's the end of my presentation. Jackie and to Scott and all the committee for making this happen. And Lisa and Rick did the programs, yeah. And of course, people that are come along, Saban and Michael, who've not been here for a while, and Chris over there, we love having you. Start coming more often, we miss you. We really, really, really do. And we still have a great time. I cannot believe it's been this long, but again, time flies, but it's been a great 35 years. I look forward to many more years of the club. We are still going strong. We got some great new things coming up, including a gentleman I met last week who owns the car Marilyn rode in Atlantic City when she did the thing for Monkey Business.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to bring the car down to Los Angeles from Northern California for an event for us. Wouldn't that be fun? Thank you all. Well, if you don't belong to the club, MarilynRemembered.org, sign up. It's free of charge. You'll find it of all events coming up in the near future. I expect next will be our birthday party, probably. So stay in touch. We've got a fabulous cake now that we're going to cut. It is so yummy, you're not going to believe it. Okay? So hang around. We got a cake for you. And thank you to all of the people that served tonight. Everybody was fabulous. Amazing, huh? Thank you.